In 1996, a king fell quietly. In a smoky pool hall in Hong Kong, hundreds watched as the most chaotic champion in pool was dismantled piece by piece by a player most had never even heard of a year before. The shots made that night would later be called supernatural, otherworldly, impossible. And the mysterious challenger who made them with effortless grace and unshaken confidence would go on to earn the name the Magician. Somewhere in the crowd, a spectator who had quietly paid just a few decades earlier to bring the magician to America under a fake name smiled. His master plan had finally come to life. I'm about to take you inside a story that's far more than just a pool game. It's a tale of an unstoppable underdog, deceit and deception, uncontrolled passion, and the most mind-blowing game of pool you'll ever witness. Earl Strickland was the most dominant American pool player in the 1990s, but he had a major problem. His love for the game bordered on obsession, and the crowd loved him for it. Strickland's playstyle was a direct reflection of his personality: chaotic, unpredictable, and explosive.
And wow. Holy crap.
He could swing from shots that would leave the audience gasping to moments of pure frustration, full of anger, yelling, shouting, and slamming.
See, I don't like that when he says that. I'd throw him out of the tournament and stuff like that.
In the beginning, people asked if such a chaotic player could go far in the world of pool. But they didn't understand that Strickland had the kind of passion that only comes from a deep personal connection to the love of winning.
He does! Earl Strickland makes it exciting.
And with that passion came a storm inside his head during every match. He was a man who needed victory, and he was willing to express every bit of frustration or joy in pursuit of it. What made him so interesting was that in a game that emphasized calculated, emotionless play, he wasn't afraid to feel every moment on the table when he played. In fact, he thrived in it. Passion wasn't a part of his game, it was his game. The unpredictability kept all of his opponents on edge, never quite knowing which version of Strickland they were going to face in any given moment. He was commonly described as a hot-headed, uncontrollable force. But this was Strickland's biggest advantage. The same energy that caused huge amounts of rage also inspired a relentless work ethic. He spent countless hours on the table perfecting new techniques. He believed every shot, every stroke, every break was destined to bring him closer to domination. This uncontrolled passion is what moved him to be a multi-world champion and a US Open winner. Accolades that position him at the very top of the sport even today. But in the cold, emotionless game of pool is the emotional passion that fuels greatness, or were all of his critics right and his passion would be his greatest downfall?
You're calling me a poor sport. I should be kicked out of pool.
In the smoke-filled halls of Manila, Philippines, long before he became a name whispered in awe, there was a man quietly mastering an art that many thought they already knew. Efren Reyes was not the usual pool player. His approach was different. Watching him play, it was clear he had a quiet, calculated, almost spiritual connection with the pool table. Over the years, Reyes developed something no other pool player has ever come close to. A mastery so profound, so subtle, it almost felt otherworldly. His control over the white cue ball was a thing of beauty. It moved as though he willed it with his mind, gliding over the table, always finding the pocket, guided by unseen forces. The whole time, his demeanor remained cool, his face an undeniable mask of calm. But how could a man with such great skill remain hidden?
To the big time, shooting dice and playing pool.
You see, the world of American pool was a closed circle, dominated by loud personalities that could command attention. In America, pool was not just a game, it was a spectacle. Attention was the difference between commendation and condemnation. Word started to spread about this mysterious player who was impossible to beat. His legend grew, but unlike others who craved fame, Reyes wasn't driven by ego. His mastery of the game wasn't just physical, it was psychological. He didn't just play pool, he saw the game differently. Every shot was part of a larger story unfolding on the green. Every ball carefully placed, every move setting up the next. While other players would sweat under pressure, Reyes thrived. It appeared as though he was simply letting the universe work through his hands. But besides his mastery of the table, Reyes had one more power. Reyes understood the power of deception. He knew how to use it to lure his opponents into an escapable trap, how to stack pressure at the right times, how to trick them into playing into their weakest positions. When he first arrived in the US, he chose to go by the name Cesar Morales. A disguise meant to let him hustle top players without knowing they were going up against a genius. Reyes moved through the ranks, quietly dismantling player after player, leaving them dumbfounded as to how a nobody could so effortlessly make shots they could only dream of.
I'm going on a long, long journey. I'm traveling towards the sun. I'm going on a long, long journey. Gotta find out where the sun shines from. Gotta find out where the sun shines from.
As rumors of his skill spread, Reyes never bragged. While his opponents fumed and cursed, he would casually bend over the table and let the results speak for themselves. But there was one man who couldn't be so easily conquered. A storm was brewing in the American pool scene, and its name was Earl Strickland.
Great shot from Strickland there. It has bottom position to the one.
Known for his loud personality, explosive temper, and aggressive style, Strickland was the exact opposite of Reyes. The pool world, at this point, was divided. On one side stood the hot-headed champion, Strickland, whose emotional outbursts were as famous as his victories. On the other side was the quiet, mystical figure, Reyes, who had played the game with a supernatural ease that left everyone in awe. Everyone knew it was only a matter of time before these two giants clashed. The night was thick with tension in the pool hall, the air heavy with smoke and the hum of anticipation. It wasn't just another match, it was the match. The Color of Money event was set to be a winner-takes-all $100,000 game, a showdown that promised to change the landscape of professional pool forever. It would be a race to 120 and a game of 9-ball. At the center of it all stood two players.
Efren Reyes is known as the Magician. He's a finesse player, while Earl Strickland has been known as the $1 Million Man. He is a power player.
On one side was Earl Strickland, a whirlwind of emotion and passion. Strickland lived for moments like this, where the stakes were high and the world was watching. He didn't just play pool, he fought it. On the other side was Efren Reyes, the quiet, unassuming challenger. To the crowd, he was still a bit of a mystery. His presence at the match was almost meditative, his movements deliberate, and his face serene. While Strickland thrived in a fight, Reyes seemed to float above it all, as if he had already seen the outcome and his victory was inevitable. From the very first break, Strickland made his intentions clear. He attacked the table with such ferocity, sending the balls crashing into the pockets with a force that made the audience gasp. He would pace around the table, muttering to himself, eyes burning with intensity.
The strength that he has is his will to win. He is here to win this match, and make no mistake.
The more pressure he felt, the more erratic he became. The crowd fed off of his energy. They loved his bravado, his willingness to put it all on the line.
He verbalizes his feelings, but it doesn't, well, it sort of propels him to do something to a higher level.
Strickland was a showman, and tonight he had a full house.
So Mr. Strickland has won the first game.
But there was something in the air that no one could quite shake. A quiet, growing sense of unease. While Strickland was making waves, his opponent was on the other side, watching and waiting like the calm before a storm. When Reyes finally stepped up to the table, the crowd was silent. Where Strickland moved with fury, Reyes was still. Every shot was soft and controlled. No unnecessary motion, no wasted power, just pure precision. The crowd watched as he effortlessly took control of the table. His movements were so natural, so fluid, that it was almost eerie. He played as though the balls themselves were in some sort of secret that only he knew. It wasn't just that they were making shots, it's how they were making them. Time and time again, the two challengers pulled off seemingly impossible feats. Strickland would fire off a nearly improbable shot, leaving the crowd buzzing.
That would be equivalent to Efren's terrific shot last game for difficulty.
Only for Reyes to follow up with something even more unbelievable.
Boy, couldn't have hit it any better.
Every round was neck and neck, with the score constantly shifting. Neither player was able to pull away from the other. One shot from Strickland saw him cut a ball down the rail so fine it was almost a miracle it stayed on the table, let alone found the pocket. Reyes, with his uncanny control over the cue ball, responded with a shot that defied belief. A perfect bank of two rails to sink the 8-ball and set up the final shot. The crowd was on the edge of their seats as the momentum swung back and forth, neither challenger giving up an inch. As the match progressed, it became clear it wasn't just about who could pocket the most balls. This was a battle of wills. Strickland was playing against more than just Reyes. He was playing against his own inner demons. He had a bad relationship with losing, and Reyes knew it. Every time Reyes would sink an impossible shot with that same calm, infuriating ease, he would curse, mutter, and roll his eyes. The crowd could sense it too. The more Reyes appeared unaffected, the more Strickland began to unravel. He fought harder, taking riskier shots, pushing himself to the edge. In his mind, if he could only push hard enough, if he let his passion consume him and gave into his inner demons, he could break through Reyes' calm facade. And yet, every time Strickland thought he had an opening, Reyes would close it with a shot that seemed to defy logic. The table was Reyes' canvas, and he painted it with strokes of genius, each shot more perfect than the last. Strickland would explode with frustration, while Reyes remained silent and serene. Reyes had fully penetrated the mind of his opponent. In one pivotal moment, Strickland's eyes, burning with intensity and fury, lined up for a shot that could turn the tide. He breathed heavily, knowing that if he could just win this game, he might break Reyes' rhythm. If he lost this game, he would lose the match. In his anger, he struck the ball too hard and lost the cue ball. Strickland was very exhausted and visibly shaken. He stood in disbelief. The loudest, angriest, most passionate king of pool fell silently to the soft, quiet roll of a white cue ball across a green felt. Reyes was the winner and pool was in a new era. His era. Reyes would go on to define the next decade of pool. He was the best, and now everybody knew it.